Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with the Superlative Podcast. Please listen to aBlogtoWatch's other podcast, aBlogtoWatch Weekly, where we talk about the latest watch news and reviews. Today on Superlative, my guest is Jonny Lieberman. He is an automotive journalist and the host of YouTube's Driving with Jonny. Jonny, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. And sorry I was late. I'm just falling apart mentally. End of the year.
If you were on time all the time, why would you even need a watch to begin with?
Good point.
You are in the right place, sir.
Okay, cool.
We will choose the watch that will allow you to be more on time and solve this problem.
Yeah, well, it's more like a watch that has like a foghorn on it that just like, if I have something scheduled, just blasts at me. My phone's supposed to do that. It never works right.
It's funny you mention that because one of the complications that I've wanted to be modernized more is the alarm, right? For those who have played with mechanical alarm watches, they're like useful and fun, but have you played with alarms before?
On a mechanical? No, I have a G-Shock that I still can't figure out the alarms on.
That's a whole other problem.
I have 18 G-Shocks I can't figure out the alarms on, but yeah.
But this is such an interesting point. Like, if you think about all the classic complications, like chronograph, okay, maybe. But like alarm, that's like eminently useful. But it's like the digital ones, the G-Shocks, just natively on it, it's so unfun to set it. You're just like, I'm not going to do it. And then the mechanical one. So this is how that works. There's another spring that was wound up. And then it's really kind of precise to within a few minutes. It's not really like perfectly precise. You kind of line up an hour hand with the hour hand. And when the standard hour hand hits this thing, the alarm goes off and this spring uncoils, causing it to essentially vibrate. It's the least sexy noise in the world. It's like if you heard a car making that noise, you'd be like, "Oh, that doesn't sound good," right?
Right. It's like winding down or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's literally. I usually call it like it's like a robot dying. It's like the death throes of like a toy. And those are the ways that we could use our watch to stay on time. Smartwatches, yes, they have other things like that, but like in our complicated modern world, I really wish our wristwatch would do a better job of just reminding us of things.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, plus the added benefit of, not wearing a smartwatch. So that's always a good thing.
So you're not into smartwatches, right?
They suck. Yeah. I mean, Audi gave me a Apple Watch back in the day, like an Apple Watch. I don't even know. Couldn't even tell you. And I wore it for like a day and gave it to my wife because it had like step tracker or some nonsense on it. The last thing I need is a phone on my wrist. I have enough time with my phone. So. Yeah.
And a lot of people feel the same way. It's funny because, you do a lot of podcasts with Leno, and our last show we published actually was with Leno, and we talked about that. And he had a period of time where he wore the Apple Watch, but like you, he's just like, yeah, it's the features are cool and all, but I want more personality. And I think that's really what it comes down to is personality. As useful as it is, that little black box on your wrist, most people have the black strap. They don't even go more interesting. It's just, you might as well, it's like driving a black box. Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, it's also, to me, it's like, and not that I'm the world's biggest watch guy or anything like that. I like watches just fine, but I just think a lot of people didn't have a watch and then got an Apple Watch. And it's like, it's just, I don't know. I know a lot of people that got Apple Watches and like, I just don't need to be that connected and they don't look that cool and they're kind of lame. I don't know. I just really dislike them. I mean, I will admit the new one that's really big, I think looks pretty good.
The Ultra?
Yeah, I guess that's what it's called. Yeah. I've seen them. I'm like, oh, that's a cool looking shape. It's better than the old kind of innocuous black one, but like if you need something like that, get the Garmin. Like, do you ever actually miss a text? Like, come on, we're addicted to our phones. Like, it's just more trapped in that Apple ecosystem. One more stupid thing to charge. That's the other thing. Like you got to charge it constantly. It sucks. I don't like them.
Do you feel that there's a similar argument to be made between, I guess, old now, combustion engine cars and electric ones? Because I feel like, no. You have to charge those all the time too.
No, you don't. You have to charge the stupid Apple Watch every day. And like, I have a Rivian truck out there. I charge it once a week. It's
Yeah,
fine.
no, sell me on it because I have limited experience driving electrics. Some of the early ones I like hybrids, but the fact that you have to like charge these, it takes a while. For me, that limits it. Like, sell me on how they're getting better at it.
I don't know. I have a pickup truck with 835 horsepower. A Ram TRX makes 707. What more do you need? Oh, by the way, mine's the old quad. The new Rivian quad makes 1,025 horsepower.
Wow.
So yeah.
So the power you get from the electric motor is just, it's worth it all.
To me.
Plus, yeah, no, it's an interesting argument.
Yeah. Plus, off-road, it's as good as, a Jeep Wrangler. Better than a lot of Wranglers, actually. Maybe a little bit less capability in terms of rock crawling than like a Wrangler Rubicon, but it can do a lot more stuff that the Jeep can't. Like,
yeah.
With 4 electric motors, the battery knows it's sending X amount of power to each wheel motor, and then you're getting Y amount of spin. So it knows it's on grass or snow or sand or mud or ice or blacktop or whatever. It actually knows what it's driving on. So the handling is like insane for a
That's so
pickup
cool.
truck.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. It's also a software-defined vehicle. And what that means is like, it'll get better over time. So for instance, is when I purchased it 3 years ago, it had 270 miles of range. There was an update. Hour later, I had 285 miles of range. It's about to get, mine's even the old one, which doesn't have the new fancy supercomputer on it. I'm about to get full AI. So you can do stuff like, hey, make everyone's seat toasty except for mine. And because it's using a large language model, it understands put on everybody's seat heater but mine. So that saves you like 4 clicks or whatever of like hitting the screen. But also, it'll soon know that it's a vehicle. In other words, the AI will be like, hey.
Self-aware.
Well, we just talked about with, it knows what it's driving on. It's like, hey, you're on sand. Why don't you switch into sand mode? Hey, my camera sees there's rocks 900 feet ahead. Why don't you raise the suspension height? Stuff like that. So it'll just keep getting better over time. Fuck gas stations. What do you want to do at a gas station? So, what about you have to use a public charger? Yeah, I got my Electrify America year-end summary. And I'm not even 100% sure there was all my truck. I might have had some press cars I charged at EA. I don't remember.
Yeah.
4 times. I used it 4 times in 2025. So that's like 2 hours.
Interesting.
How much time did you spend at a gas station in 2025?
I admit I don't have the type of experience you have actually driving and living with. I remember some years ago, I was with someone who one year had a traditional combustion car, and we went and did meetings. It was fine. And then he had this electric car, and like every couple of hours we had to stop and hunt. And this is in Europe, so it was a little harder. Hunt for a charging station that was available. Sure. And it was like this, what used to just be let's drive around and have meetings turned into this like whole weird game of let's find an available charger. And it sucked. It was like the worst thing.
Look, I mean, infrastructure is definitely not perfect. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is it's just getting better all the time. The other thing is like, my truck, which isn't even like it's not even a current. There's already a Gen 2's out. I have 285 miles of range if I'd bother. Like, are you driving around more than 200 even 200 miles? Let's say the battery's at 70%. Are you really doing more than 200 miles of driving around to meetings during a day? Like, probably not. And for a road trip, the charging infrastructure in the U.S. right now is pretty damn good. It sucks inside of major cities. Like if you go to Las Vegas, you'll never find a charger. They don't exist. Los Angeles, horrible. So it is kind of a rich guy flex, meaning that like I own my own home, and so I have a charger at my house. If I had an apartment and my landlord says, no, you can't install a charger, then you're at the mercy of public chargers. That said, the Tesla network has 17,000, and that info is like 2 years out of date, but 17,000 chargers nationwide. Everybody is moving to NACS, North American Charging Standard. So like they're there. It's a hell of a lot better than it was. So yeah, I understand the argument, but a lot of people are going back to when like you had 100 miles of range. A modern, forget about Rivian. Like if you were to get, I don't know, like a Mercedes EQ of some sort, those will do close to 400 miles on a full charge. Just not an issue. Just.
So I think the logical question that I have is how much longer can the industry protect the human driving experience? Because the types of things we're talking about, and we already know that various types of autonomous driving is available. We obviously have Waymos, but I see, and this actually concerns me, is that if we have a point where we don't need to drive our cars, Americans will lose this valuable skill where we're sort of like connected to machines. And I think that so much good occurs from the fact that like most people out there are trained how to use big, heavy machinery, driving fast in the social environment, which is traffic. Without that, I wonder what we lose. Maybe I'm getting too philosophical.
Oh, I would say, well, hey, look, 43,000 Americans die per year driving these big, heavy machines around. So if you can mitigate that, like what are we losing? Like I love driving. I bet I love driving more than you. I bet I love driving more than everyone listening put together. However,
maybe, yeah.
However, yeah. I mean, I've yet to hear anybody announce a level 5 car. So a level 5 car, according to the SAE standard, means a vehicle without a steering wheel, without pedals.
It's coming though.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Rivian just announced, for instance, last week they had a big AI and autonomy day, or autonomy and AI day, however they build it. They will have what they're calling level 4 personal. So in other words, your truck, which has a steering wheel and pedals, you can drive it. If you want, though, you can sit on your couch and say, "Hey, truck, go pick up the kids, or go take the kids to soccer, swing by the grocery store, grab the groceries, grab the kids, and come home." And you can sit on your couch and doom scroll like you want to really do anyways, because you're addicted to your Apple Watch. And yeah, so they said that's probably 2028 timeframe, and Hyundai
that's
Kia
soon.
Hyundai Kia said about the same. They're saying in a year, so the end of 26, they'll have what's called eyes off autonomy. And so eyes off means you still have to be behind the wheel. However, Rivian assumes the liability for whatever the vehicle's doing.
Interesting.
Which is a big difference between, like, right now, Tesla, they've cracked it. They have full self-driving 14. I think it's like 14.2. It does point to point. So in other words, it could be in your driveway and you say, go to Walmart, and you sit there and it drives you to Walmart and parks, and does it perfectly. 99% perfectly. It's really good. You can buy it right now. I was at lunch with my friend Aaron, and he has a Model 3, and I was telling him about it, and at lunch he picked up his phone and he $99 a month. He went ahead and did it because he wants to check it out. His car's capable of doing it. So it does it right now. It's level 2, meaning that if it's perfectly driving to Walmart and it kills someone, you're liable because you're in the driver's seat, even though the car's driving itself.
Yeah.
Tesla has never said they're going to ever do a level 3 or 4. 3 is when the liability changes. So who knows with them? Rivian says in a year, when the new R2, the R2, which is a smaller SUV, is launching in 2-3 months, something like that. However, there will be a version of it that comes with LiDAR, and once you put LiDAR in it, then they will go ahead and do eyes off. So the Rivian should be able to do point to point, which again is like, take me to McDonald's and it'll just drive there. But you gotta eyes on. You gotta keep, if you look away, it tries to turn off. It's like, hey, or it will turn off. When you get eyes off, then it's level 3, and that's what's really important about that is, let's say you're in level 3 and it's scooting along and you have a heart attack, and are incapacitated in some way. And, it might be a situation where it sees an ambulance and it really wants you to take over, but you've had a heart attack. Rivian still has the liability. It has to bring itself to a stop. So that's a huge difference between what Tesla's doing and what Rivian's going to be able to do. By the way, Mercedes has been selling level 3 systems in California and Nevada that work in California and Nevada since December of 23. So
Yeah.
now that said, all these cars have steering wheels. They all drive. I've driven them, So I don't know about level 5. I don't know when you'll start to see a consumer vehicle that doesn't have a steering wheel.
Yeah, I think, and thank you for sharing all that. I find that fascinating. Yeah. I think what most people don't understand with AI, this is essentially an AI conversation, even though there's hardware involved, is that the technology is ready to do things that the legal and regulatory space is not.
100%. December of 23. Why was it December of 23? That's when California said, okay, these cars are legal to be in level 3 mode in California, and then Nevada was a fast follower, or vice versa. Other states, I haven't been keeping track, honestly. But other, like I asked the guy, I said, what if you have it in level 3 and you drive into Oregon, you cross the border, and he said, well, it'll try and turn off. If you don't take control of the car, it'll just slowly come to a stop and put the hazards on. I said, well, if you're in Oregon, can you activate it? No, it's geofence. You can't turn it on in Oregon because it's not legal there. And again, Mercedes, unlike Tesla, is very concerned with like legality and like who has liability. And again, you're going to see every other automaker on earth will probably do it that way rather than what Tesla's doing. Yeah. Tesla's so crazy. This full self-driving 14, it operates in Mad Max mode. So it'll drive 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, and it'll aggressively, change lanes and stuff like that, which I like. That's how I would drive if I was driving. But like I got a demo in the Rivian, the point to point, and it just goes the speed limit, which feels pretty slow.
I mean, fast forward to the future, 40, 50 years from now, I'm just guessing, and this is what I see is happening. I see roads as being populated by exclusively robot-driven cars that are the level 5, that are basically moving living rooms with a toilet they're sold.
I hope they don't have toilets. Yuck.
Oh, they'll have toilets.
I don't want to deal with that. No.
And there'll be portable closets as well as people movers. You'll be able to say, hey, car, bring me a new pair of pants because I have a little closet in there. And
I mean, look, imagine going somewhere and you forget something and then you send the car back to get it.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
not the worst thing. And then, Tesla's saying you'll have an Osmo, which will bring you your concert tickets or whatever. Little robot.
Yeah. So that's what I see happening in the future. I think the question is how long it takes to get there, because I think we all agree having robots and humans driving at the same time is a transitional period. It's not necessarily ideal because it's really the liability stuff, all this legal stuff, who's responsible. Again, I have a legal background, and I know that we have decades and decades of established law that has basically determined who's responsible for what on the road. Now, that all gets upended.
Right. And again, who's going to fight autonomy the hardest? Insurance companies. Because, hey, if I never have to drive, like, I don't need insurance, so there's that. I don't know. I don't know how quickly it'll go. And again, it's not a mandatory thing. It's like you're going to pay a lot of money. In the case of FSD right now, it's $8,000 on top of the car. Rivian's saying they'll do point to point for $2,500, which is that's less than Tesla's charging, $5,500 less. I don't know what they're going to charge for the eyes off. I think they said there might be an additional fee. They were a little hazy with that. GM's coming in fast with Super Cruise, Ultra Cruise, whatever they're going to call it. They'll have a system that does this. Again, I just go back. I mean, I go back to and it's gotten worse, which is crazy. In the last 10 years, more people are dying. And they thought it was texting. It turns out it's not really texting. It's if you and I.
Is it just road rage? I think it's just road rage.
No. If you look at it, and again, I got to get somebody from like the GAO to hand me the report. But I've had people that I know that work there. But if you look at accidents in America, 92% of fatalities involve unbelted drunks.
Really?
Yeah, so it's people. It's people in older cars. It's largely poorer people that can they have an older car where it won't beep at you if your seatbelt's off. But it's drunks. You remember the GM ignition thing where the cars were turning off?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It turned out they were turning off because drunks were crashing them off the road, and as they were crashing, the cheaper push button ignition thing would fail and turn off. But in 20, I believe it was in 22 of the 23 cases. And again, GM couldn't go public like this because you're kind of victim shaming. But like in 22 of the 23 cases, they were dead drunk when they crashed. And
Interesting.
yeah, so that's a problem. So 43,000 people a year is a lot. I mean, we lose 70-some thousand to guns. So, cars are right there. Sadly with Teslas, because I could go on and on about this, but they do this thing where, oh shit, there's an accident up ahead or a cop car, turn off, and they'll switch off real quick. So in other words, the car was driving, it sees something it doesn't like, and it just, because it never had liability, why not switch off? They do some really dubious stuff. So a few people have died in Teslas that were in autopilot mode. I don't know if any have died in FSD. There's a difference between the two. But again, the theory goes, if you can, remove deaths, that's a net positive. I could argue I really like driving and I need people to die so I can continue my habit, but that's sort of like the pro-gun argument too, it's like Charlie Kirk was saying, this is the price you got to pay to have a Second Amendment, and then he got shot in the neck. So, I don't want to say my pleasure is more important than your life. I never want to make that argument. I love driving. It's all I do is think about cars, but I get where the technology is trying to get to.
Well, I look at people that are horse enthusiasts. And if you like a horse today, it's like a kind of weird hobby. You have to keep it somewhere. You can't just use your horse on regular streets. You got to go someplace special. And I kind of think it's going to be like that for cars. You have to go on special roads, special tracks.
V12s and stick shifts. I think it'll be a real. I don't think they'll be banned from the roads. My friend.
Not during our lifetimes, but eventually.
Nah, I don't know. My friend drives around on a Model T. You know what I mean? America doesn't really ban stuff. It's not something we're up to. Norway, sure, ban away. I don't think it'll ever get banned, but I think it will be you're absolutely right, like horses. Now, horses, man, big business. You look at horse racing. You think fancy cars are expensive. Look at
oh yeah,
horses winning the Preakness and the Breeders' Cup and all that. Which is fine. And again, it's one of those things. I have this argument with people all the time where I'm like, yeah, EVs are better. And they're like, oh my God, but the sound. And I go, oh, you really like the sound of your RAV4? Because that's what we're talking about. 99% of the vehicles are glorified minivans, right? RAV4 is a minivan cut to look like an SUV. You don't do anything SUV with it. You go to Costco, you want a big trunk so you can put bulk toilet paper in. That's your concern with automobiles. You don't care how it drives. God, you wish it just drove itself. And hey, by making it an EV, you're doubling the horsepower. So it's all of a sudden it's actually a better car. You're lowering the center of gravity. It handles better just by going to EV. So I find that argument a little specious when what you're really talking about is will I still be able to have a 911? Will I still be able to have my V12 Lamborghini? So yeah, the rich kind of get exactly what they want. They always have. They always will. It's gotten worse, but it's good to be rich. So I'm not too worried about anybody losing their Porsche. You know what I mean? And I say this as a Porsche owner wearing a 914 shirt at the moment. Yeah, if you got it for the greater good, okay, I'll be able to sleep at night. And and there's also and we ignore it. Americans we ignore it. Dude, we're on a collision course with massive death due to climate change. And you know who figured this out first? Exxon scientists in the 1970s. You know what they did? They spent billions burying it. And they literally do propaganda where they try and say how bad EVs are for the environment.
Yeah.
They knew this. They figured it out. They brought it to the executives, and the executives said, bury it. So and not only is it our cars polluting, but remember, 50% of ocean traffic is oil and natural gas being transported around the globe. So boy, if you stop burning it, 50% of the ship traffic goes away. And that's really bad. Cars are also really bad for releasing CO2, but big ships burning bunker oil is horrible in terms of emissions and in terms of carbon dioxide. When I say emissions, I mean noxious. Again, if you don't believe me, go in your garage, turn your car on, hang out, see what happens. Like it's
Oh,
bad what comes out of tailpipes.
So let me bring this back sort of around to watches. And in the enthusiast community, as you know, car guys like watches, watch guys like cars. There's a huge amount of overlap. And I'm often like the rare guy who's like, you know what? Those vintage cars are pretty. Those vintage watches are pretty. But there's a lot of headaches involved in owning them, buying them, operating them. Like, you know, you're on it a lot more. Once in a while, I'll be in these like vintage car rallies, and everything is like, oh, that doesn't sound good. I'm gonna have to fix that. Like, it's like that analog experience just makes me want a Toyota Camry, like really badly.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
Old cars suck. Yeah, for sure.
And these guys obsess over it. They obsess over it. And I don't get it. Same thing with a watch. It's like, you want comfort. You want modern. You want reliability.
Yeah. I get the appeal. I love old cars, but I mean, like they're hard to drive and they don't work well. I had a Myers Manx for a couple weeks. Fun car to drive around. Air-cooled, carbureted, and you'd be driving around, you shift to second gear, all of a sudden your foot goes all the way to the floor, and the carburetors are like, and it fires back up. And this is from Myers Manx. You're not going to get one in a better state of tune, so they're old. Old watches, I mean, I don't know, my oldest watch, probably a 71. And I just had a service. It has to go right back in. So they're garbage. Yeah, but they look good. And again, a watch, watches aren't really killing people. Watches, they're not going to hurt. And when I say hurt the environment, they're not going to hurt humans' ability to survive on planet Earth. Earth was here before us. Earth will be here after us. I have a child. I want him to have a future. I want my bloodline to continue. That's what I worry about. With old watches, they're really not hurting anybody, I don't think.
Oh, no. I just want to go to the car.
Real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't even think old cars are even hurting anybody. There's so few of them, relatively speaking. It's the new cars. Like, instead of having, 400,000 RAV4s a year burn gasoline, have them burn electrons that can be made from wind and solar and nuclear. Green, there's no CO2 coming out of it.
I agree. Yeah. I think that there's a nuance here because there's the adoption of the electric, power plant, but then there's also the logical next step is if we have all these amazing electronics and software, where does the human even come in? And we like driving, as you said, you can like driving an EV as much as you like driving a combustion engine. Oh, yeah. The problem is at what point do we get taken out? We have wristwatches because we still need to know what time it is. But if we just have notifications or software that tells us where to be, we no longer actually need to know the time of day. We just need to know to pay attention. And I like using tools. I like using a car as a tool. I like using a watch as a tool. Sure. At some point, the software actually just engineers the human part out. And then we're just bored and we have nothing to do but doom scroll, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah, we turn into Wall-E where we just, sit in chairs and eat fluid.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think you'd have to have a market case. In other words, you have to produce a car. And again, remember, this isn't the government issuing you a vehicle. These are really expensive vehicles that can do the driving. So you'd have to have a market where people want to buy cars that don't have steering wheels. I don't see it for a while. Could it happen? Sure. I don't know. I just think that's so far off. But what do I know?
You do know, actually. You are at the cutting edge of car technology.
I haven't heard anybody talk about it. Even Waymos have a steering wheel, so I don't know. I don't know.
I'm a bit of a futurist. I like to imagine the possibilities, but I admit during our lifetimes, humans are going to share the roads with machines. Absolutely.
They already do, man. The amount of Waymos I pass every day in LA is shocking. Like they're everywhere, and then now they're on the freeways. Like Vegas, they got those Zoox guys running around, and in Europe and in Asia, China, it's happening faster. And again, the amount of Teslas that can now drive, like literally drive themselves, is huge. Actually, there's legislation this morning announced that. I can't remember if they've even decided, but it's going to be blue or green. But when a car is in driving itself, it'll have to have a light on it that lets others around it know that it's autonomous.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of. I see it as like what's the difference? But people want to again, like they're real safe until they do something really weird, and then it's very obvious it's a Waymo that's like driving in front of a police shooting. Did you see that?
I've just seen all kinds of hilarious things that like if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. You're just waiting
this
for
one.
Yeah,
you can just Google it. It's like basically they got a perp. They got like all 7 or 8 cops, guns drawn. They have the dude like laying on his stomach, hands behind his back, and then a Waymo drives in between them. It's like the guy called a getaway vehicle. It was so brilliant. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, Waymo didn't know what was going on. How would it? Edge case.
Now, when you meet with these car brands, a lot of these executives are watch guys, aren't they?
Almost all.
Right?
Hang on. Let me say something. I'll say something. In the last 2 weeks, I met and hung out with Jim Farley from Ford and RJ Scringe, I believe it's pronounced, from Rivian. And they both had Apple Watches on. New, big ones. But I was kind of like...
What'd you want to see on the wrist? Because you don't want to see that. You want to see more personality.
Yeah, the dude, he just retired, but Peter Rawlinson from Lucid, he was a watch dude. He really knew his stuff. And he hated Apple Watches, even though he was building, the Lucid, and he was the chief engineer on the Model S. He hated Apple Watches, and he was like a real vintage Rolex kind of guy. And plus, he could afford Lange & Söhne and FP Journe and all the fun stuff that I can never even dream about owning, Pateks and all that. So
I always find it interesting how so many people that design watches today originally went to school to design cars.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And a lot of the people that design cars became introduced to watches kind of in design school. Mm-hmm. So the connection between the two on a sort of even fundamental design basis is really close these days. I was just with Tag Heuer, and Tag Heuer has a new creative director, lovely guy. He came from the car world. And the new, this is interesting, the new fancy Tag Heuer Monaco split-second Air began life as a concept car. So he has this drawing of like a fake Tag Heuer car that's like just a drawing.
Right.
And then he's like, let me base a watch on this car that doesn't exist, but that I designed for the brand. Like the mental hurdle to sort of just understand the process is interesting, but like this convoluted exercise just to have a new kind of car themed watch, like that shows you just how integrated the two industries are.
Sure. Look at the Bugatti Tourbillon. Aside from the name, Jacob & Co. is building the instruments. And I've never been, but a bunch of people told me they've gone to watch factories. And they say it's just a miniature car factory. It's the same thing, just in miniature. So
I haven't, that's the thing. I've only been, I think maybe to one car factory. So I need to see both. I've been to like so many watch factories.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
I've been to like the dirty ones, and I know some of them, like the McLarens, are like really nice. You can eat off the floor and stuff like that.
You literally could eat off the floor. Although they would kill. Well, he's gone, but when Ron Dennis was there, he would kill you for eating off the floor.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
No, he was nuts. He actually, they had different atmospheres in the factory and the cafeteria because he didn't want any smells to escape the cafeteria into the factory. So there was actually pressurized.
I love it.
Yeah, so that no smells could escape. Yeah, he was a nutbag.
That's worker optimization,
not terminal, but really crippling OCD.
And I think so. You know how I think it's Japan they started it, where in the factory floor, like every hour or something like that, the workers would like stop and do like a little stretch and exercise thing. So they do that at the Japanese watch manufacturers. I've never seen that in Europe. But like you go to like Seiko or Casio or something like that, every hour they stand up and do like a little calisthenics for a second. And that's directly came from the car industry. And it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, in Germany, they probably stop and have a beer from 10:15 to 10:30.
Maybe not these days.
German, factories.
Or especially these days.
Yeah, well, German factories. I mean, I've only seen it. I was at the Mercedes Classic Center in Schwalbach, but they have, I forget what it's called, but they have a break from 10:15 to 10:30 and then like 2:45 to 3, something like that. But like, they can do whatever they want, and management cannot talk to them. And they have a beer, and they really like flaunt it. And like the managers will stand there with their arms folded, staring at them, looking at their watches, waiting for this 15-minute period to be over. But it's like union rules. Like,
that's amazing.
They get a break, like a real break. And yeah, they all have a beer. And again, I don't know about watches, but with cars, I mean, you're turning a bolt, you can have a beer. One beer is not going to kill you.
I want to go back to the Bugatti Tourbillon, and I could be wrong, but I feel that this is maybe, at least in modern history, the first car named after a watch. Plenty of watches named after cars, but is it not the first car just directly full on named after like a watch part?
Great question. My gut says yes. However, who knows? But yeah. Probably. And look, I mean, like, they know their customer. All their customers have, Jacob & Co., 7-figure watches. So, like, why not name a car after a watch? And, and a tourbillon, as you know, is a real flex. Like, hey, let's take a $100,000 watch up to a $500,000 watch, stick a tourbillon in it, which even for, tourbillons are useless for wristwatches. They're
useless.
They're for they solve a problem of grandfather clocks, essentially. They look cool, but yeah, you don't need them at all. But it's just a flex.
But it's, again, and maybe you're not as involved in the marketing side, but for years and years and years, watch brands would try to sort of ride on the coattails of the popularity of a car brand or a supercar or something like that. So you had all these watches connected to cars and cars, just endless options.
Porsche Design, Porsche Design watches. You can get
everything.
Your hubcap.
Parmigiani. When Parmigiani made Bugatti watches, the whole point is we'll help sell these watches because there's latent interest in Bugatti. Now, I think what's interesting is the flip, where Bugatti is saying, wait a minute, we cannot just get watch guys excited about cars. We can get car guys excited because they were into watches and they get it. And that slight flip, I mean, maybe it's very nuanced, but for me, that's a big deal. Now you know what I mean?
It's very nuanced, but it's also going to be like a $6 million car. So like they were all pre-sold when they came up with the name. You know what I mean? Like it's just, they're just kind of like doing a winking nod because, trust me, all the watches worn by people that are going to buy the tourbillon have tourbillons in them. You know what I mean? It's sort of a wink, wink, nod, nod. Like I don't think you're gonna suddenly see the Mazda flywheel and like, oh yeah. Like mainspring, I gotta buy it. Yeah, I think it's a very specific customer. And by the way, they're only making 200 tourbillons, so it's not exactly some mass appeal thing.
Do you remember? It's difficult to pronounce. It's the chemical symbol for nitroglycerin, but this was a collaboration between MB&F and Orwork, and they made a watch, and the dial was the basic functioning rotation of a rotary engine.
Okay, sure. A Wankel, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about Mazda, right? And then Zinn, the German company, for a while had a couple of Mazda Miata branded watches.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That seems weird.
They're just in Japan. I don't think they were ever sold out of Japan.
I would think Zinn would do like, G-Shock, what made out of G-Shock metal or something.
I'm just saying this. In my mind, I'm thinking about all the little, even related to Mazda and things like that. So when you go to these cars and coffee events, which apparently is the replacement for a lot of car shows.
What do you mean, like local ones or like big, like the Audrain or something like that?
Well, I guess I mean like local ones. This is such a fascinating thing for me. I'm not a morning person, so I never go to these things. But growing up here in LA, we used to have classic car night, right? So the night I was cool, I would go to those things.
Bob's Big Boy, yeah.
Bob's Big Boy. I used to go with my dad when I was a teenager. Boy, do I remember the cheap prices back then.
Yeah.
Wow, I wish I could. Well, anyways, that's a whole other story.
They didn't have $18 cheeseburgers back then?
No, I meant the prices of the cars.
Oh.
What you could buy in amazing condition. I remember even like, the Mercedes, the SL, the gull wing door ones. I mean, they're incredibly valuable today. I remember like them being not that crazy. You could buy them regularly. Like even like a Mustang, a good condition Mustang was like a fraction of the price of like what it is today. I know it's obviously later on in life. This was a while ago.
Cars went through a huge adjustment. But look, my friend Aaron Robinson writes for Haggerty. He used to clip ads out of the back of the LA Times, and like in '81, there was an ad for a Miura for $15,000, a Lamborghini Miura.
Yeah, stuff like that.
That's cheap by cheap standards. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you used to buy everything, and it was there and available. So these cars and these cars and coffee events have, for a lot of people, that's, if you like cars, that's right. The LA Auto Show is not what it used to be.
Oh, no.
Not even close. And I find these interesting because in the watch world, you have two parallels. Is watches, like cars, being a social vector. It's not just a tool that you enjoy, but it opens up a world of friendship, socializing, and things like that. That's a huge part of it. So I guess one of my questions is, because I'm too much of a night person to ever go to these things, are people going there and flexing their watches on their cars, or is it still mainly about cars?
The ones I go to, it's really hard to flex. Somebody will show up in one of those dour EB110s. If you're trying to show off your Porsche, like, no one cares. Watches are part of it, but it's not. It's the ones I tend to go to and the ones I put on. It's less about the cars and much more about the people. So you're not getting a lot of like the flexing, and you're not getting a lot of like the McLaren kids killing themselves and making loud noises and revving and burnouts and that kind of thing. So it does exist. It's not a monolithic culture by any means. But yeah, I mean, look, people that have 911s tend to have interesting watches, too many Rolexes, but they tend to have a Rolex, and they'll wear them when they go to the Cars and Coffee.
I remember years.
I go to this real quick. I go to this one called Good Vibes, and I have a very big wrist. I have like about an 8-inch wrist, and I know all the dudes up there with 8-inch wrists, and so we used to just like, it was during the pandemic. We'd see each other once a week, and then you're trapped in your house. So we just all trade watches with each other, just for a week.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was great. But there was like 4 or 5 of us, same size wrist.
Did you wear anything cool?
Oh yeah, my friend Jim, all kinds of cool stuff. But he had a nice Speedmaster, just a nice white dial Speedmaster, and it was just that was a good watch. That was a good watch.
So going back to the car shows and flexing, I noticed this interesting change. I remember 15 years ago or so going to or even longer, to like a Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
People were showing off their cars, but if they weren't wearing a Rolex, it was like a Timex or nothing. Like it was really rare to find someone who was like really into watches. Now, it's totally different. So guys have something.
Yeah, I would go. My friend, this guy, photographer Mike Schaefer, car photographer, but he would do stuff for Hodinkee. And one of the things he would do is he would go to the Goodwood Revival, and I would. Oh, hello, sir. You have an interesting watch. Can my friend photograph it for Hodinkee? And yeah, the watches are insane. I mean, like literal insanity. Not as in England, but still, yeah. If you go to Pebble Beach nowadays, I mean, I remember one evening where I was like, I have 7 friends that have Richard Milles. Like, what is going on? Like, what? Everyone's too rich. So yeah, there's all kinds of crazy stuff at Pebble Beach these days. All kinds,
And we were recently at the Audrain show. The Audrain. I don't know why I can't pronounce it easily. It's
a weird word. I don't know why
it is a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, their last name is Schorsch, so I guess Audrain is better than Schorsch. But yeah,
it has a nice ring to it once you say it.
I mean, the Newport Concord would be pretty easy to say and spell. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And that way people will know where it is, right?
Or they show up in Newport Beach or show up in Oregon or something. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So this event now has A. Lange & Söhne is an official sponsor, and they've had it for a couple of years. And
if I may, sorry to cut you off again, but A. Lange & Söhne also sponsors Villa d'Este, which is like the fanciest car show.
The one in Italy.
Yeah, in Italy on Lake Como. So that's also. I was thinking about robbing a guy. Yeah, I know the guy that won Best of Show there. I was like,
so this company has officially sponsored a couple of car shows. It's like 3, maybe 4. I forget the exact number. And I think it's really kind of forced everyone to elevate their watch game because they have this really fancy booth there. And now you go around and people, it's like they don't feel comfortable just wearing the whatever watch. And I think
again,
that's, you know what I mean?
Hate it. Well, I don't know. I hate it, but I was standing with Nick Senior and Junior Schorsch, who they're wearing their Longasonas, which they can afford. And I was with Leno with them, and he's got his. He has several Longasonas apparently, and I'm like, I don't have an Longasonga. I have what am I wearing? Whatever it was.
Your Canyon.
I might have been wearing that. Yeah, I brought like a couple watches. So
yeah. I was there for a few days. I again, we didn't chat, but I saw you there. You were doing the outside podcast, and you were wearing the Canyon with the blue dot.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I remember a lot, but I remember the watches people wear.
No. Yeah, the Canyon. It's a great watch. I wear it all the time. I wear a lot of Sheffields. None of my watches are expensive. So,
but I think that's what's interesting now is there's this new, and I say new because it's really only been the last 10 years or so, of what we'll call them interesting watches that are like under $3,000.
Yeah.
And I think that's been great for the car guy because now you can come into an event with a lot of personality on your wrist, but you don't need to feel like you can't afford the longie. Because it used to be that you're like, you want personality, you're going to spend a lot. Now you can be more on a budget, but not look like you bought yesterday's Tissot.
Yeah, although I will say, there's always been like I have a Doxa 300.
Yeah, and great watch.
Yeah, and I knew I paid maybe $2,200 for it, something like that. And I've been in many rooms filled with many dudes rocking Rolexes and Royal Oaks and whatever. And I show up with my Doxa and they're like, whoa, a Doxa. Like, whoa. So, I don't think anyone has any idea what they cost, but there's always been, a value proposition that's interesting. But you're absolutely right. Like I'm wearing this Sheffield right now. That is a complete Tag Heuer, ripoff of, I forget what it's called, but there's a tag that looks just like this, but this is a great watch. It's the first, it's almost $1,000, which for Sheffield is crazy money, but it's got a nice movement, 63-hour power reserve. It's a real watch. And so you're right. And then there's way more choice nowadays. Zinn is another great brand that I collect a little bit. Wish I had more, but the most expensive Zinn is maybe $6,000, and they have dozens and dozens of watches for sale, and they're pretty cool. And again, it's another one like when people are in the know, they're like, "Oh, whoa, is that a U1?" Like, oh, that's a pretty cool watch.
And the U1's recognizable too.
Great watch. I have one. A phenomenal watch.
Yeah, I love my Zinns. I totally feel. I guess the point is and I think it's important because when you want to go into the hobby, especially cars, there's a steep entrance. And especially if it's those Porsche clubs, Ferrari clubs, whatever, unless you can afford one of those things, you're not in. And it makes people feel insecure, also like they don't have the social vector. And then with watches, you kind of had the same thing for a while. And when these new smaller brands started getting more interesting, they've always been around, but they started getting more interesting. I felt very happy because I think it lets more people participate in the hobby without feeling like I can't have something fun. Because it used to be that the cheap watch was the boring watch. And that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, you're right. It was a Casio-based, the Osama bin Laden Casio. I agree. But I would say, and again, the cars and coffees that I hang out at, everybody's there. And, if you show up in, your Datsun, whatever, 280Z, or your E30, BMW, those are $2,500 cars, whatever they cost. And, another guy rocks up in a Porsche Carrera GT, it's fine. Everyone should be there.
But you got to have personality. You can't just roll up in a Corolla.
No, you come in a Chevy Silverado, not cool.
Yeah, so
it's AT4 or something interesting.
Yeah, but again, I think that's what it comes down to, and people need to understand it's
ZR2. Sorry, GMC's AT4.
No, it's totally okay. There's a lot to remember, but again, the social element is if you can choose something that has personality, that's more valuable than walking in with a ton of money. Because we see those guys that have very expensive watches that put no thought into it at all, none.
Yeah, and again, the amount of during the pandemic, dudes I knew who suddenly had crypto cash and that just ran out and bought a Royal Oak, and they're like, "Oh, I love this watch. This is the greatest watch." I'm like, "You have no idea what you're talking about." And like, by the way, you're not interesting enough to wear that watch. Like, take it off. So just having money. It's not enough these days. It doesn't guarantee you anything. You can still be made fun of.
I remember I think it was at a car wash a few years ago over on Melrose. And I saw a guy wearing like a vintage Daytona, like your classic Paul Newman.
Sure.
Very, very expensive at the time. And I was thinking about talking to him. And then I looked more close and I realized this guy doesn't have a clue what he's wearing. He was just told this was hip, this was expensive. I saw the car he was driving, which I don't even remember what it was. But like, I put the pieces together in my mind and I said, as much as you enjoy seeing a guy wearing a nice watch, this is not a watch conversation to have because the guy's going to be weirded out by it. He's going to be like, why are you talking to me? I don't get this at all.
No, and I had this conversation with the guy that got the Royal Oak. I was like, you understand that you bought a dumb one because like everybody who has the money that wants a Royal Oak, they've been on the waiting list for years. They work with multiple dealers. You bought one that's so ugly, and it really was a bad looking one, that no one wanted it. There's a reason why you got like whatever. I don't remember what it looked like, but I was trying to explain that to him. But that
must have gone over well.
Yeah, good friend. It's fine. It was just one of those things. Like he suddenly had some money, and he was trying to do the thing where he's like, I love watches and look at my amazing Royal Oak. It really is the best watch in the world. And I'm like, oh yeah, what makes the Royal Oak the best watch in the world? I'm like, in fact, I can think of like several APs that are way more interesting, way cooler, cheaper, relatively speaking cheaper, that, why didn't you get that? Why'd you have to get the Royal Oak? It's like, that's the one to get, that's why.
Well, this is again something that has affected both the car world and the watch world. Is you have these enthusiasts, consumers, whatever you want to call them, who rather than form their own opinions, they've sort of like a sponge sucked up the opinion of someone they heard on the internet. And it's really great that folks like you and me and countless others talking about watches and cars. But when we speak to someone, we almost want to test them. Like, did you buy this because you have an opinion, or did you just like that other guy's opinion and wanted to borrow it?
Let me stop you for a second. I don't care that much. If somebody rocks up in a Porsche, rad, love Porsches. And I would also say a difference in the watch world and the car world is, picking on AP, what have they done to differentiate the Royal Oak? Nothing. It hasn't changed really. Oh, we skeletonized it. Yeah, it's got a waffle dial, right? It's nothing. Some real innovation there. Whereas Porsche, they innovate, and each new model year does become better to drive and better features and all that. So, maybe it's a little boring just to buy a 911, especially if it's black, white, or silver. However, they are really, really, really good. And
no, they're great. But the question is, why did you get it? Because it's a good car, or because someone else said it was a good car? Do you like the watch, or did some guy who you think is important like it? I don't care what someone has. And maybe you have a different opinion, I just want them to have a good reason for why. I want them to understand why it's useful rather than just feel that someone else out there, some third party likes it, but they don't ultimately understand it.
Yeah, I would just say in the case of like 911 specifically, like, there really isn't a competitive advantage. Whereas, like, if you just go get a Rolex, GMT, like, yeah, it's not really better than the same thing from Breitling or the same thing from, whoever. So you're kind of buying into Rolex. Whereas, like, you could make the argument, like, well, the Aston Martin, makes more power, but Porsche's got rear seats. This doesn't have a rear seat, and like there's road trip practicality reasons. Like Porsches are they're in this specific case, it's always justifiable. It doesn't matter why they bought it. So it's smart. That was a good thing to buy.
I don't disagree. I mean, it's at least for the Porsche case, it's popular for a reason. Now,
yeah.
One thing I found kind of interesting, and I don't know if this is confusing to most people. For me, it is a little bit. Porsche has two ways right now of buying a Porsche watch. You can either get the Porsche Design Chronograph 1, which is a Porsche watch designed by the guy that designed the 911, or you can go over to Tag Heuer and get their Porsche watches. Is that confusing, or is that just fine, that there's just enough Porsche interest out there?
I think it's fine. I think it's a very specific person who wants either one. I don't think anyone's accidentally buying a Porsche Design watch, and there are modern Porsche Design watches. It's not just the Chrono one, and then that Tag Heuer is sort of a time warp. It's sort of like it is what it is type thing. I don't even know enough about tags to really like thoroughly comment on this, but. Yeah, I mean, it's more like, that's what Steve McQueen was wearing when he was driving around a 911 looking at Cirque du Sarthe in the Le Mans movie, and I'm obsessed with that for whatever reason. I would say in a very boring way, but that's just me. So, yeah, I think it's fine. I think if any car brand's going to justify two types of watches, Porsche, fine. I've lost no sleep over that. I do wish maybe they'd spend a little bit more time on the current Porsche Design watches, like just
Tell me
aesthetically.
more.
Like, well, I have a original Chrono. I think it's a second year, 72 maybe. Porsche Design
73
watch.
is when would be 72 is when it came out. 73 would be the second year.
I have a 70. I think I have a 73. I found that I looked
Early on.
I went down the rabbit hole of the serial number chase, and I think that's
Oh wow.
who knows. But it's great. I love it. And, I also have a 2022 Porsche Design watch that I'm going to sell because it never did anything for me, and it's doing less these days. And, and it's also like, it was and I didn't pay for it. I did a partnership with Porsche Design. And at the end of it, I got a watch. I could design my own watch.
Yeah, it's nice.
But it's like a $9,000 watch, and you look on Chrono 24 or wherever, and you can't sell them for $5,000. So it's like the price outstrips demand type thing, and so I wish they just made slightly nicer watches. That's all, more interesting watches.
We could spend honestly like over an hour talking about Porsche Design and their history with watches. It's kind of hilarious. I mean, again, they flipped. When I first started working with them, their whole thing was, let's not talk about the cars at all. We want to stand on ourselves. And I was like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. And today they're like, connection, the cars, the watches. There is, so that all those other designs they made, they've stopped for now. They literally are just making the chronograph one and variations on. They told me, and it's interesting, 70% of their sales since about 2022 and 23, 70% have gone to people buying a Porsche car who are upsold to have a customized chronograph one that goes with it.
You said the key word, the upsell. People feel they need to, and I think, without casting too many aspersions, I think they're told like you need to buy it. It's like because again, it's like you're just adding on $9,000, which I don't think it's a $9,000 watch. So yeah,
I have not convinced you yet.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have one. I've worn it. It's okay. It's not, it's titanium. That's nice, I guess. I don't know.
It's a beautiful tool, but it's a bit cold if you're an LA person. LA has so many bright colors, novel architecture in cars and things like that it's like you have to be like a car scientist in the winter in Germany to be like, oh, this is perfect watch.
Yeah. I even then, I just think there's so many more interesting German watches available, like so many more.
Look, it's a big market out there.
A Lange-Sana, I mean, Glashütte original.
Yeah, good luck finding a Lange for $10,000.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, there's so many good German watches. You don't need to be burdened with modern Porsche designs.
Oh, I just think it's an interesting scenario because Porsche is such a popular name and the 911 is so crazy popular. Yet this watch, it doesn't struggle, but it has a story that takes several steps to understand. And then look, the brand is German. The watches are made in Switzerland, but designed in Austria. Like that's a bit confusing for anyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I just like that original Chrono. I think it's great.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. So I guess we only have time for like one more big question, and I'd love to have you back.
Go sadly, but yeah.
What do you think the watch industry can learn from some of the ways that the car industry has marketed over the last couple of years? The watch industry is doing more events. It's becoming a little bit more cultural, but the car industry, despite ups and downs, continues to be so powerful culturally. I don't even know about sales and things like that, but
look, you ready?
You know what I mean?
Embrace minorities. Like I look at watch ads, it's like boy, this is some white people horse shit.
Interesting.
It's a big world out there, Switzerland. Like play in it. I would say like the messaging. If you flip through a watch mag, the messaging is very like Swiss, and it limits the appeal, I think.
So what would some ideal or recommended modifications be for their advertising?
Look, the Mercedes, they finally embraced hip hop there, so. But hey, I do have to run. I'm sorry. I have an hour timer, and we've crossed the hour.
No problem. So thank you so much. We're at time. This has been the Superlative Podcast interview with Jonny Lieberman. Look online, follow him, and look at his content.
Instagram. You want to know what I'm up to? It's just Jonny Lieberman, no H in Jonny, on Instagram, and everything I do, I put there.
Jonny, thank you so much.